The first organ system we're going to talk about is the digestive system. For our cells to use the energy stored in our food, it needs to be broken down into macromolecules called nutrients. Digestion is the process of breaking food down into these macromolecular components. There are 6 different types of nutrients: carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water. So our food has to be broken down into all these components for us to use it. While plants and other photosynthetic organisms can make their own food, all animals need to eat other organisms for food. We group animals based on what they eat, usually into these 3 categories: carnivores, which only eat other animals; herbivores, which only consume plants; and omnivores, which eat both animals and plants. We measure the amount of energy stored in food in calories. So the more calories a food contains, the more energy it has. The scientific definition of a calorie is the energy required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. 1 calorie is actually a very tiny amount of energy. When you see the calories listed on a nutrition label, the number you're seeing is actually in kilocalories, which are each 1,000 calories. So this food label shown here contains 150 kilocalories per serving, which is actually 150,000 calories. Every organism has a basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of energy it needs in a day just to keep itself alive. It's the energy you would burn if you sat on the couch all day at temperatures within your thermoneutral zone without digesting any food. BMR varies widely person to person, but the average human female weighing 120 pounds will have a BMR of about 1,400 kilocalories a day, and the average 160-pound male will have a BMR around 1,700 kilocalories a day. But of course we need more energy than that, because it takes energy to do things like move around, eat and digest food, or maintain our body temperature if we're outside of the thermoneutral zone. Most people need about 50 to 100% more calories than their BMR. But again, this is highly variable. Many factors like your activity level, age, muscle mass, health, and genetics can all affect how many calories you need in a day. BMRs also vary widely across species. Some species need a lot more calories for their body size than we do. For example, a 5-gram shrew needs to eat about 2 grams of food per day to maintain its body weight. That's the same as if a 200-pound man ate 80 pounds of food every day. If you haven't already, open up Participation Assignment 10 and answer these 2 questions. Water is one of the vital nutrients needed by all animals, and we need it for several different reasons. We use it to transport nutrients and wastes in our body, so the water in our blood carries nutrients from our digestive system to our cells. Water is also a reactant in many chemical reactions that occur in animal bodies. It also serves as a solvent, so something for other nutrients to be dissolved in and transported. It helps lubricate our joints and other tissues and organs. And it's important for temperature regulation, such as by changing blood flow or producing sweat. Another vital nutrient is protein. We break down the proteins in our food to produce new proteins in our bodies. Proteins are long chains of amino acids, and they are important building blocks for the different cells and tissues in our bodies. To build new tissues, you need those protein building blocks. So if you are trying to bulk up or add muscle mass, you need to consume a lot of protein to build those new tissues. There are 20 different amino acids that animals need. Some of them can be produced by the body, and others need to come from food. Which specific amino acids can be produced by the body will be different in different animal species. Amino acids we can't produce ourselves are known as essential amino acids, because it is essential that we consume them in our diet. Non-essential amino acids can be produced by the body, so it's not essential that we consume them in food. We not only need enough protein, we need enough of all the essential amino acids. Not all proteins are the same. They will each be composed of different combinations of amino acids. We refer to a food as a complete protein if it contains all 9 of the amino acids that are essential for humans. Enzymes are also proteins, so they are made up of amino acids. Enzymes are important catalysts for many different chemical reactions that our bodies rely on to function and stay alive. They help facilitate or speed up these reactions. Enzymes work by fitting together with certain molecules like puzzle pieces. Now pause and answer this question. Carbohydrates and fats are the nutrients that our energy comes from. Carbohydrates, or sugars, are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Sugars are short-term energy storage. They are broken down quickly in the body to release energy. There are different types of sugars that are broken down at different rates. The more complex a sugar molecule is, the longer it will take to break down, and the longer it can store that energy. Simple sugars are small and easily broken down. Disaccharides are a little more complex. They're made up of 2 simple sugars, which you can remember because di means 2. So they take a little longer to break down. Complex sugars are much larger molecules that take longer to break down. Our bodies store carbohydrates and the energy they contain in the form of a complex sugar molecule called glycogen. Because glycogen is a large complex molecule, it does not break down very quickly or easily. So it can be stored in the liver and muscle tissues until we need to use its energy. But even glycogen can't be stored for very long. The human body can store about a day's worth of glycogen. When glycogen is stored, it is bound to a lot of water molecules. So when we break down a lot of glycogen, that water is released and eventually excreted. So if you go all day without eating, your body may start to use up its store of glycogen and release all of that water that was stored with it. This is why when you go on a diet, you may seem to lose a lot of weight quickly, but that weight is just water weight. For long-term storage of energy, we have fats. You can imagine it would not be good if we could only store a day's worth of energy in our bodies. What would we do if we had to go a day without eating? Fats allow us to store energy more long-term because they break down more slowly and are harder to break down than carbohydrates. They also are much more dense, containing about twice the energy of carbohydrates. Fats are not stored in the same way. They are hydrophobic, meaning they repel water. So they are not bound to water like stored carbohydrates. When you break down and use the energy from fat, you do not lose a large amount of water. Fat serves as an extra reserve of calories, or energy, in our bodies. 1 pound of fat stores about 3,600 kilocalories. So to lose 1 pound of fat, you need to burn an extra 3,600 kilocalories. Fats are composed of smaller molecules called fatty acids, and there are many different fatty acids needed by the body. Just like the amino acids, there are essential and non-essential fatty acids. You may have heard of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids, and maybe you've been told to avoid foods that contain lots of saturated fats. The difference between them is in their chemistry and how stable their molecules are. Like carbohydrates, fats are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. In saturated fats, each carbon molecule is bonded to 2 hydrogen atoms, so they're saturated with hydrogen. This makes them very stable molecules that are less likely to react with other molecules. Because they're less likely to react and be broken down to use their energy, they are more likely to be stored as fat. In unsaturated fats, some of the carbon molecules have a double bond and are only bound to 1 hydrogen atom. This makes the molecule less stable and more likely to react. So unsaturated fats are more easily broken down and less likely to be stored as fat. Trans fats are unsaturated fats that have a different molecular arrangement. Because of this molecular arrangement, they can increase low-density lipoproteins, or LDL cholesterol. If this gets too high, it can lead to plaque buildup in blood vessels and eventually cardiovascular disease. Now answer this participation question. Vitamins and minerals are other important nutrients, but they don't provide energy. Instead, they serve as catalysts in chemical reactions. So we don't need a large amount of them. We just need enough to help those reactions take place. If you eat a healthy diet, you probably get all the vitamins and minerals you need from your food. But sometimes people do need to take supplements to get the vitamins and minerals they need. For example, women who lose a lot of blood during menstruation may need to supplement iron. Postmenopausal women who can't drink milk may need calcium supplementation. People on low-calorie or restrictive diets who don't have a lot of variation in their diet may need some extra supplements. Pregnant women sometimes need supplementary folate, and some people need vitamin D supplementation in winter if not getting exposed to enough sunlight. So how are vitamins and minerals different? Minerals are elements, so they are composed of just a single atom. Vitamins are organic compounds, so they are molecules made up of carbon and other atoms.